Welcome to the Write Good Books podcast, the audio companion to WriteGoodBooks.com, with your host Jason Bougger.
And welcome back to the Write Good Books podcast, episode 50, believe it or not.
Woohoo!
I had no idea we'd make it this long, and it's kind of cool that we did. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I hope you've learned a lot too. I'm Jason, and I'm joined again by our co-host, Scott Michael Childers. How are you for number 50?
I'm doing fine, and we're working on this like we're the Wright brothers.
The Wright brothers.
The Wright Good.
There you go. That should be the new.
I've waited 50 episodes to reach that one.
Awesome. That'll be our new name. I'll have to reprint all the.
No, it won't. It won't.
Reprint all the merch. Cool. So, for all of you who've been there from the beginning, thanks a bunch. It has been fun doing. I'll get on to our topic of the week, or of the bye-week?
Of this episode.
Of this episode, number 50, the Vince McMahon School of Marketing. We'll just keep repeating that throughout. We won't. I jest. So we were, sometimes we talk before we record this. It may not seem like that, but we were talking about our own writing, because that's what writers do. We say, hey, look at me, I'm a writer. I write stuff and I want to talk about it.
In funny voices, too.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really.
Okay, so we were talking about our own writing, and I was talking about something I had published and said, well, it wasn't my best piece. And I said, my best pieces I can't get published. And Scott here made a really good point. Do you want to, or asked a really good question.
Yeah, I said, well, what makes them the best if they haven't been published?
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
And I had no idea how to answer that. And I said, hey, let's do our podcast about that.
Yeah, let's work it out on air.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. Last time was the first draft episode, so this time you can witness it live. We'll first draft this one. No, but it's weird because I have one story in particular that I think is just incredible. It's only 3,000 words, but it's the only time I wrote 3,000 words in one night. I was so into this story, I got it done, and since then it's had nothing. I think I've submitted it like 20 or 30 times. And I'm trying to think now. I don't know if I've ever even got like personal feedback on it. It's just form letters.
And yet, you still consider it your best.
I consider it one of my best, yeah.
Meanwhile, a couple of your stories, and you told me this, that you don't feel are examples of your best work.
Have been published on the first try.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that is what is it that makes an author feel like, their best work is still not being accepted, but yet, quote unquote, lesser works have been accepted, published, purchased by people outside of the family. We're going to get into this part. We're not going to be talking about writing skills at this point for our 50th. We're going to be talking about something else. Writer's feelings, I guess.
Maybe.
Anxiety.
The feels.
We're all about the feels. Great. Now, are you going to start up the Tumblr and Live Journal, or is that my job?
That's yours.
Yeah, let the cynical old guy do it.
It is interesting, though. How many times do a writer you love will say, this is my worst book, and you're thinking, I really liked that book, but the author hated it. Or you'll see that with musicians, too, sometimes. Be like, oh, I love Pink Floyd's The Final Cut. The band universally hates that album. You'll see that with music, and you'll see that with performers, or you'll see that with writers.
Well, I think you'll see it with any form of art.
Yeah.
And writing is a form of art. It's very subjective. There's a lot of personal experiences and emotions that go into whether a piece resonates with you.
Yeah, you just that might be it. A piece you write that feels a little bit of you is in that piece, you're going to really like.
Yeah.
A reader might not.
Or maybe, and it could be for any reason, really. It could be a piece that, well, like you said, one night it just flowed out.
Yeah.
You felt plugged in when you wrote that piece, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is universal truth, baby.
Right.
Or not with that voice,
It was
probably.
about the Mothman.
So it was universal truth. But it
Exactly.
just, it came like it was touched by the muses.
Yeah.
Right? And other pieces you had to work.
Yeah.
You had to craft.
Yeah.
Right? And so that might be part of it.
That could be too.
You know, and that's the problem, though, is that it came all at once.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't get that refined touch, that a piece that you had to work at and craft
Yes.
and take a critical eye at to build. That's one thing that I think might be part of it, is just the ease of it.
Yeah.
In this case,
Yeah.
This is me pretending to be a psychoanalyst.
No,
type.
I think you're making good points.
But I think that might be part of the reason, because I've had pieces that I've written, nonfiction pieces in this case, where I felt this one really grabbed the hold of the matter. And then I had others that I really struggled with just to get the number of words for the article.
Right.
And that one was what I heard more positive comments
You know,
on.
It's the same with blog posts. I'll have blog posts. I put my heart and soul into like 1,200 words of the. I think this is just utter genius, and that'll be like in my bottom 10% of traffic posts, and then some that I just kind of threw together on a whim will be way at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a difference between how much inspiration versus perspiration,
Yeah.
I think, has something to do with that. And then there might be pieces, I don't know how you feel about this, that really, you said a piece of yourself. Maybe there's pieces that show more of yourself or helped you understand yourself as a person, as a human being, more than others.
Yeah.
You know, writing this piece gave me insight on myself or my world, as opposed to this is just a story.
Yeah. You know, or on a simpler look, maybe just something that the writer feels real close to might just scream Mary Sue to a reader. It's so subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'll talk about painted art. My wife's a painter, and there are pieces that she absolutely adores. No one takes a second look at them. And there are pieces that she felt, her craft wasn't up to snuff. It was a hack piece, and it is sold.
And that's what sells. You know, maybe this is even bigger than us.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, look at a lot of the literature out there
Yeah.
that is not what we would consider very well written, that'll just sell and sell and sell, and then really good stuff won't sell.
Yeah.
So
Also, when we define best in what? Because it's sold? Does that make it best? Or does it tell us something about the human condition?
Yeah.
Is it mass market fiction? Is it literary fiction? And I'm not saying one is better than the other.
Right.
It's just the approaches they take.
yeah.
Maybe you accidentally, you said you're not up to for literary fiction. Maybe you accidentally wrote a piece of literary fiction and you don't
maybe.
want to admit it.
And I'm trying to sell it to genre places. Although it is a Mothman story, so
So it should be non-fiction then, right?
that's true.
Just kidding, folks. But yeah, I mean, there could be some of that as well. I mean, best to who?
Yeah, best. You know what I would consider my best, does that just mean if I was a reader and I read it, I really enjoyed it, or do I consider it my best because it impressed me that I could write that? Yeah, there's degrees of best.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it changes as you develop your writing, and if you're in this for a longer period of time, your definition of best changes. I would think. My book that I wrote got out there. I won't say my first published piece, but my first as trying to be a writer. I can't look back at that now and not be embarrassed. There are parts of there where it's like, man, I want to rewrite that. It is not my best. But it was published. My best is yet to come. But at the time, I was very proud of it. I wrote it. I published it. Great. I don't look at it so fondly now.
Yeah.
And, there are some actors and musicians.
Yeah.
They have a love-hate relationship with what they've done sometimes.
They do.
And sometimes it goes up and down, up and down. You know, I hate it. I love it. You know, I hate it. It defined me. You know, it could change.
Yeah. That's kind of like when you hear the stories about the pro wrestler that goes backstage and the locker room's congratulating him on the match, and he's angry that it was I missed a spot 15 minutes in, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
always have to bring back the wrestling reference.
Well, I'll put I in high school I was doing some acting. I act like I'm a writer now, but but I had someone come up to me and said, "Hey, you'll probably win, actor of the competition." And I looked at it and said, "This is an ensemble piece. If one of us wins actor of the competition, we blew it, right? Because that wasn't the role. It would."
Yeah.
If one of us, not even me, one of us had won it, that means it wasn't our best for what we were trying to do.
Okay.
But someone thought someone was the best
Yeah.
in that group of people. Which one's right?
Yeah. Good question.
And I think I feel like I'm kind of taking over this one,
That's
so
okay.
just give me a swift kick in the shin. But I think also we have a culture now that expresses best, throws that around, and more people have voices to say this is best, this is not.
Yeah.
So both in culture of kind of extreme appreciation of something or not, and also there's a lot more voices saying things are best or worst.
Yeah.
So I think there's a combination of that outside of just the writer and just the reader.
Yeah. But when it comes to your own personal writing, like you mentioned, there's parts of your book that you feel embarrassed by.
Yeah, at this point I do.
In what sense?
I think the writing, actual writing, the craft of writing,
Oh, yeah.
I could do much better
Okay.
now than what I released.
Sure, a few years ago.
Yeah, and it has been years ago,
Yeah.
and I've improved, hopefully.
Yeah. I know I've got short stories that were published, 4 or 5 years ago that there's one in particular that I cringe when I look at, that so many cliches and et cetera, et cetera. But
Yeah. So, and then, I don't know if you know anyone like this, they've hit their pinnacle and then they're done. This is the best. I'm not going to try anymore.
it's sad when that happens, though.
It can be, yeah. But there are some people that I will never improve on this moment, so I will never try again. Whereas, I think we've already talked about, it's more than likely they will have. But yeah, there are several authors that have one book until their estate forces them to release a second book.
They're in their 90s or whatever.
Yeah, and some hit their pinnacle. Actors do it. Some musical artists do it. Physical, all of them. But I think in general, your best is never what you've done. It's always yet to come. I think there's always going to be something. Again, depending on what you call. Is it the skill used, the impact, what have you?
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah. It's been interesting to kind of diverge from our usual discussions. This is the 50th. It's a very special episode brought to you by Psychology Today. I'm kidding about that.
So many writers feel like I write, but I don't write well. I think. I wish I was a better writer. I'm embarrassed to show you what I write because I know it's no good. There's a lot of, I don't want to say low self-esteem because it's not really that. It's more like, I don't know what it is. You're afraid that if you show somebody something that you're proud of and they aren't impressed by it, you feel like a fraud? Or maybe that's not the right word.
I think there is kind of a fear of being found out.
Yeah.
And
you're not a real writer.
And that happens in other professions. There was some study done of business executives, and they were afraid of being found out as being a fraud, not because they felt like one. Even though they were highly capable people, they were all determined to be successes in their field. But internally, they all felt, no, I have to put on this big front, and I have to work so hard because they'll find out that I'm a fraud.
Yeah, I feel that way in the IT world all the time.
And meanwhile, you've had steady employment for how many years, right? And that's, what I do for a living. I go out and talk to libraries and talk about, well, this is state law around libraries, and this is best practices. And there are times where it's like, I'm no lawyer, right? But I'm expected to be the expert, so that's what I'll do. And I don't know if that plays into this idea where I released this, I don't feel comfortable about that, but really craft-wise, it is the best work you've done.
Yeah.
I don't know. It goes back to what we said at the beginning, where this one piece came easy, this other piece did not.
Yeah, and really a good way to go full circle and call it a day on episode 50.
Yeah, I think it's been, maybe we'll call this our episode of best. I don't know. I'd like to hear from other folks how they feel about it. Not just us doing this, but in their own feeling of best versus anything else.
And we don't always go over this, but if you would like to contact us, you can leave a comment on the post itself on writegoodbooks.com, or our Patreon site is open to comments, or you can always email me at jason@writegoodbooks.com as well. And I'd love to hear from you guys. And
our 2-year anniversary is coming
yes,
up,
it
so
is.
If you got any
ideas, questions,
whatever, for our past 2 years worth of work, let us know.
Yeah, we're always open to it. So I think we'll check out now and hope to see you soon.
See ya.